Back from the weekend on Locked On Coyotes, we had quite the weekend for Arizona. Lawson Crouse files for arbitration of his salary. We're going to have to talk about that, and we're going to have some thoughts of prospect development camp scrimmage. Happened on Friday. That's going to be all on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes. This episode brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. I'm Robyn Leonio. That's Carl Pavlock right beside me. We got a great show for you today. Before we get to that, I do want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And again, that does mean we'll never, ever have a paywall. Like I said, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk about a lot of the things that you might have missed over the weekend for the Arizona Coyotes. We're going to start with the most recent, Carl, and that is Lawson Crouse, a restricted free agent, has filed for salary arbitration. When salary, which is set to begin, or hearing set to begin next week. But Crouse has filed for it, and we're here. We didn't think you'd see it, but here we are.
Yeah, I would say we hoped we wouldn't see it. You never want to see a team go to arbitration. It does not turn out well. Arbitration, for those who aren't aware, the team comes in, says, hey, this is why we deserve to be getting all the money in the world. And then the team comes in like, these are all the ways that you're terrible and why you do not deserve to be getting anywhere near that much money.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you would expect, hearing all the ways you suck or all the way the team doesn't value you tends to kind of sour your relationship. So, yeah, it would be ideal if Crouse did not actually go to arbitration. It should be said that just because he filed doesn't mean that he's actually going to make it there. Most players do not.
Yeah, that is something that's very important to say. Most players do not make it to the hearing because they find a way to negotiate with the team. And let's be real, Carl. Filing for arbitration, that's leverage, right?
Yeah,
that's just saying, hey, I don't like what you're offering, but I do want to stay with this team, so let's work something out. But if you're going to continue to be an asshole about it, we have an arbitrator here who's going to who could file in my favor, and give me more money.
And I mean, it really just adds a time frame to the negotiations where the team could theoretically protract it out to a certain point during the regular season, in which case you're not going to be able to play again. But an arbitration says hey, this is going to be done by late July, so we're going to be figuring this out. It's definitely Crouse's right to do. I can appreciate him doing it. Like I said, I hope they come to a negotiation somewhere in the middle much sooner than that, though.
Yeah. I am curious to see what the dollar value is on both sides right now. Obviously, that information we won't know. All we do know was that Crouse was given a qualifying offer, which should be at least a little bit more than his previous average annual value of $1.533333 million. Which, yeah, you'd hope he'd get more than that. So I wonder what the qualifying offer was for, and I wonder how much Lawson Crouse wants.
Yeah, I mean, Crouse definitely wants more than the qualifying offer, just because it's the low ball to keep the negotiations going. Craig Morgan on PHNX in an article pegged it around $4 million. On the high end, he compared him to Adrian Kempe. On the low end, Jordan Greenway. Kempe 4 years, $5.5 million. Greenway 3 years at $3 million. Would you say 4? I think we talked recently, and you were a little bit lower than 4.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the 3. I think around that 3-ish range.
Yeah,
As I'm thinking, and like, let's say, but also like if you're gonna go much higher, like if I'm going in the higher threes, I would personally give less term because it's like, all right, let's and this is would be somewhat more beneficial in this way because it's just like, okay, you can put it that you can have it at this dollar value, and at the end of 2 years, you know, if you have improved, obviously your contract is you're gonna get a raise.
yeah. So you're thinking more like just kind of the classic bridge deal. Like
Yes.
I could see that, but I do feel like Crouse is a player who has steadily improved. And if he has like 2 more seasons where he's a 20 goal scorer, like, do you give him 6? Like,
Yeah.
with term? Especially for a player who I think we could both agree, Bill Armstrong and Bear, like he is a player that's like high up on what they want the Coyotes to be. So you kind of gotta stick him around. He is like the poster boy for your style.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who will argue just like essentially give Krause what he wants because I mean here's the thing you have to think about for the Coyotes. One, they do have a lot of money, so they can kind of they can afford to give him what he wants now. And I say now because obviously you don't know what 4 or 5, later, like how depending on how much term he wants, what the team's going to look like by then, right?
Yeah,
Maybe this is a team that wants to spend more money at that point. I don't think it will be, but like there's so many factors you have to bring into that. Like, so obviously, I don't think the Coyotes should just 100% give in to his high end value because whatever that's part of the negotiations for. But they're speeding up, right? It's now being sped up. They don't want like obviously the Coyotes don't want this to go to the hearing next week, so they'll get something done. And it will be within that 3 million range per year. I don't know how much term.
I can agree with you on term. I do think that Crouse is definitely like a good candidate for a bridge deal. I know Chayka didn't like to have bridge deals, and we're not really sure what Bill Armstrong's kind of philosophy on that is.
Mm-hmm.
Crouse is like his biggest like first test for that. But I think he's gonna get closer to 4. Like I
Okay.
think arbitration could probably get him that. He's coming off a 20 goal season where he missed like the last 19 games, if I remember that correctly. That really says something, and I think like that kind of recency would really like sway an arbitrator. Be like, yeah, he's coming off something big, so
Yeah, I mean, I
have him
can see.
maybe on the higher end of comparable.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying on that closer to 4. Because I'm saying like that higher end of 3, right? So I'm saying like
Yeah,
3, like 3.7, 3.8, somewhere around there. Um, which is definitely possible. I think beforehand we were talking about like less. Obviously, I think beforehand I think both of us did say roughly less, but then we're just like, but yeah, if you put in all the factors, right? Like you said, he was a 20 goal scorer. This
yeah,
last season. Obviously, the previous season he wasn't. He just had bad luck. Maybe there's an argument to be made like, hey, let's see how consistent he can be first. But at the same time, if the Coyotes like him as much as they do, then you make that deal, right? You want to keep him
yeah.
around.
And that's really like kind of the problem with making it like getting to arbitration. Like I do think there are like several like knocks against Krause's game that you can make. I think you can make a very compelling case to argue his salary down. I think he is worth a lot of money. I think he's going to trend up, but if we're thinking like a business, which the Coyotes are, you do kind of like have to think like, yeah, there's things that they can do, but you don't want to like tell all that to Crouse. You don't want to like make him think that that is the opinion that you have, like, because you would have to argue the worst case scenario to get the best deal. And that's why teams don't like to go to arbitration, because it's going to sour the relationship. It's a Pyrrhic victory, if anything.
Yeah, and again, and that's the reason why very few cases actually get heard um, in the hearing, because no one really wants to get to that point. Although I think there has been in some cases, like in where a team actually says, yeah, you know what, let's do it, let's go there. Is that common? No, but there has been I think a number of occasions where that's happened, and obviously this won't be a case for the Crouse and Coyotes, but it's happened.
Yeah, and there are, I'm sure, cases where a player and team go to arbitration and the player like finishes out their career with a team. I can't think of any offhand, but I'm sure there's definitely cases.
Absolutely, like we said, it happens, but who knows what's going to happen here for Arizona. We really hope that it doesn't get to the hearing, because I'd like to see him stick around without having that any potential bad blood.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him get a fair deal as well. Like, I know professional athletes, like, anything could happen, make that money, Crouse, but I just hope both teams can kind of come together and make something happen.
Absolutely. We still got more to get to on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to talk about, development camp. It just finished up last weekend with the scrimmage. We're going to have to talk about some thoughts about it and any other thoughts as we get ready for this coming up week for Locked On Coyotes in just a moment. But first, a quick word from Carl.
So I have a message from our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. You can find all the latest sports developments, including league reviews and news, including Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. There's going to be a lot going on in the offseason. You definitely want to make sure that you head to Bet Online to get all the latest updates so you can see which teams are tracking to do well and which ones are trending downward. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to check on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
All right, so now let's go ahead and get to prospect development camp. It was quite quite the week, Carl. Obviously, a lot of different things happened, including the beginning of the week, Connor Geeky's injury.
Yeah.
But what a week it's been. Now we got a chance. Now the Coyotes got a chance to see a lot of prospects. You think even fans got to see some of these prospects. And from what I'm understanding, is this team has a decent future.
Yeah. I mean, it's a prospect development camp, so nobody buy any 2023 Coyote Stanley Cup tattoos yet.
No.
But it was a solid camp. There was, of course, that injury, but the team seemed to move on. We got our first real chance of seeing some of the younger players, and fans seem excited.
Yeah, they did, and it's cool because obviously, what we're talking about. No, we're talking about the players you could see on the ice, right? Connor Geeky was one of them. Obviously, he got injured, but Dylan Gunther and Logan Cooley and of course Josh Doan, because everyone loves seeing the Doan family tree just continue on in Arizona and all stuff like that, right?
Yeah, Liam Kirk. We got to see our player from the UK who missed most of last season with injuries. McBain was at the prospect development camp. Kind of interesting, but really showing early on that he's really wants a roster spot.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, right? That like even though he's under contract, um, that he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna be there and kind of maybe learn things maybe I didn't know, like learn things that this team is looking for in terms of development and work on it. Which is honestly, if I'm the Coyotes, I look at that and I'm like, I like this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there are players who don't go to prospect development camp for whatever reason. I do not think Soderstrom was there. And for some, it's like, all right, you're far enough along in your development. You're not really going to gain anything here. For some, it's like, I got other stuff going on. I can't really do that, but I'm continuing what I'm doing. But for a player like McBain, who we're not really sure where he's going to end up, he could see some AHL time next season. But for him to be there from the very beginning, like familiarizing himself with the front office and the coaching staff and all that sort of thing, it's definitely a good sign.
Yeah, especially with that, getting to know the coaching system, because like when you're at prospect development camp, you're getting to know the Roadrunners coaches too, because they're also there.
Yeah.
The entire system is there. Like
everyone whose job it is to like deal with prospects is going to be there. Like
yep.
You get a chance to like get like their 2 cents on something. And for a player, who is with another franchise, it's a time to like meet people and like figure out who you're going to be talking to throughout the year. Because
one of the cool things though that I did see over the week from prospect development camp is one of the coaches from the like coaching camp last year is now a skills development coach this year. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and it does really show like the Coyotes are actually putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to that sort of thing. Like if you have an internship program and you bring people on, hey, that's great. But if they can't get a job afterwards, did the internship really do too much? And the Coyotes are showing like, yeah, this can get you a job afterwards. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. In just a little bit, though, I am going to ask you maybe about some of the notes that you took from the scrimmage, because there's that happened on Friday, and obviously our Friday episode was before then, so we're gonna have to talk about that in just a moment. But first, I know we're a hockey podcast, but obviously there's Locked here at Locked On Podcast Network. There's a lot of different things going on in sports. So right now, Locked On has which NFL stars move betting line the most. Starting on July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from odds makers at BetOnline. Available once again July 18th on Locked On NFL or wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. So let's finish things off of this episode of Locked On Coyotes by taking a look at the end of prospect development camp, in which it is marked by the prospect scrimmage happening on Friday evening at Ice in Scottsdale. Carl, you were there, so you got a chance to take a look at some things. What did you see?
It was really exciting. It was a very full crowd, standing room only. Admittedly, the actual spot was pretty small, but definitely like a lot of people there. I got to see quite a few like just front office people walk by. The ASU coaching staff and front office was there. Because they also have a couple players who are there. So getting a chance to see them play was good. But it was really great to see the Coyotes prospects. First time seeing Logan Cooley play, and he did not disappoint.
Yeah, that's a good thing to hear, right? You because that's where all the hype is around, right? Because everyone's getting against the first time to see this kid, right? This kid was drafted 3rd overall. So, anything specific that you saw from him? Maybe like the kind of play that he did that excited you? And
so he definitely had a knack for just being in the right spot at the ice. I think he still needs to work on a shot a little bit, but he knows where to go. He knows to find like the quiet spot. It was great to see. And something that really took me aback, just because it doesn't get brought up too much in a player like Cooley's prospect profile, he was phenomenal in the faceoff circle. Like I don't think he lost a draw. And he went up against McBain. So that was great to see and something I was just very much not expecting.
I do think back to something like that when we were kind of going through prospect profiles, and it was when we were talking about Matthew Savoy, but there was the comparison of him versus Cooley because obviously they're both centers, and we're like, all right, so like which one would be the better pick? And I think it was Russ Cohen who was doing that profile for us. And he's like, well, Cooley is the safer pick. Obviously, he's a guaranteed center for you because he's face-offs and stuff like that. And if that's the case, like that's something that the Coyotes can use down the road.
Yeah, like my favorite niche player is a third line face-off center who just like goes out there, wins a key face-off, and then sometimes just goes right to the bench. And not saying that's going to be Cooley. I hope they'll be much higher than that, but
Oh yeah,
it does just go to show you like you can make a career out of being good at face-offs. It is that much of an important aspect, especially for a center. And when you have a player like Cooley, who's undersized, like there are questions about whether or not he can make it as a center. It was just one prospect development camp, so I'm not going to like anoint him the Coyotes' number one center like right now. But I mean, he didn't disappoint me. I'll say that.
Any other players stand out to you?
Yeah, I liked John Farinacci. He looked really good. I believe he had a goal. And going on defense, Max Zuper, the player from Poland that we talked about, he had a very impressive one. I was not really expecting too much out of him, and he stood out. He had a really good move, and I really liked it.
That's awesome to hear. Obviously a lot of people are going to be paying attention to the top guys, right? The guys who are drafted first, second round. But to see
Yeah.
a guy, is draft, put that kind of work drafted in the sixth round, love to see it.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the thing. I will say that Cooley didn't have like his best game. McBain didn't have his best game, but they're not the ones who are looking to impress the most. Like the later round picks, like the free agent people, they are always going to try harder at this kind of event because they know how hard it is to make it to the next one.
Absolutely. Any overall thoughts you had about like just the entire event? How things were. How things moved together with the scrimmage, and any other thoughts that you had when you want to share.
It was just a really well done thing. I would have liked there to be more room, but it fit the crowd that was there. The Ice in Scottsdale is a really nice place. Oh, and I did also want to mention that I got the chance to see friend of the show, Patrick Brown, working in his new job, handling Coyotes' social media. Like
As
he
the
was
official
there.
team reporter.
Yeah, there were doing. I was in 18 degrees, getting a pre-scrimmage beer, and they were doing their segments, talking to Bill Armstrong in the first round picks. So got a chance to see him after that. So that was fun.
That's cool. It's always nice to catch up with other members of Coyotes media, like the Coyotes
Yeah,
media scene, because the Coyotes media people, like even outside people, like we talk to people all the time. Like we talked with Richie and Corey last month. We had Leah on last month as well. And they're all great people. People who cover the Coyotes. That's what I love about covering this team. Right? We're all good to each other.
yeah, absolutely.
Any final thoughts do you want to share before we close things off?
No, just it was a great prospect development camp. I look forward to training camp and seeing like what players take the next steps.
Absolutely, and I might be up there in time for training camp, or I should be up there in Phoenix in time for training camp. So I'll probably show up to a couple of those and get a few glimpses myself. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, and yes, that also does mean we're on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Instagram at LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. Carl Pavlak is Carl Pavlak FFH. Interact with us, ask the question you might have. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.